In the age of social media, when we have more connections than ever before, we have more Facebook friends, we have more connections on LinkedIn, more followers on Instagram, right? We feel like we're connected to people all the time. And the question I have is do we have better relationships? Do we have real relationships? Or is it kind of like vanity metrics? Is it kind of like for us to kind of feel good that we have 4,000 friends on Facebook? I remember growing up asking myself this question and thinking to myself, like, trying to go back to my earliest years to ask myself, how did I come to a place where I feel like I don't really have real relationships? Like the relationships that I have are just relationships, but they don't feel real. They feel a little vain. They feel a little empty. And so I went back all the way to try to think back to my years growing up in elementary school, as far as I can remember. And I remember an incident where I had a teacher, he was asking everybody to speak, and people would get up and they would read from a book. I think it was English or whatever in Lubavitcher Yeshiva. And he asked me to speak, so I said, no problem, I can get up and read. I can read just fine. I remember getting up and reading, and I remember struggling to read, really, really struggling. And at some point, he asked me to sit down, and what I heard him say in my head, in my memory, by going back all the way there, I heard him say, you're an idiot, you don't know how to read, sit down and shut up already. And remembering that moment, it was kind of like a little bit of a visceral moment. I remember sitting down and being so ashamed that everybody else can read and I can't read. And at that point, I looked around the classroom and I felt like everybody was giggling. I felt like people didn't like me. I felt like I was dumb. And all the years, I was trying to be that person who tried to prove to everybody that I was smart. The teachers didn't really like me because I wanted to prove to them that I knew the material right away. So I knew the material right away. So then I was bored because you had to repeat it for 30 people, right? So you'd repeat it over and over and over to try to get everybody's attention in this class that had a lot of kids in it. And I just said, you know what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make the kids think I'm really smart because I'm gonna try to outsmart the teacher. So I became like the class clown, always trying to get attention, always trying to do things to outmaneuver the teachers. So although I was the valedictorian when we graduated, I was also kicked out at the same time. So looking around, who were my friends? Who were the people that I was actually friends with? I remember I didn't fit into any clique, any particular clique. I looked around, there were quite a few cliques in our class. And also there were the kids that nebuch weren't really so smart, right? And so I always felt like I was moving around from clique to clique, never really fitting in, and never really fitting in with the kids who kind of didn't fit in anywhere, either way. So I felt like I didn't really have any friends growing up, not in elementary school and not in high school. And finally, there was one boy when I was a teenager that became really, really close to me. And I felt like for the first time, I actually have somebody that gets me, somebody who I can tell him my secrets, somebody who I could really, really connect with in a very deep level. And I remember he used to come to my house all the time. I used to go to his house all the time. And I was like, wow, finally, this is what it feels like to have a real relationship. And I felt so good. I felt like, wow, I wish I had this my whole life. Because I looked at my brother, he's 6 years younger than me, and he was always part of a clique. He always had lots of friends. He always had it going on. And I thought that every other grade, it was like one grade had it made and one grade had a bunch of troublemakers that never really got along or whatever it was. And I felt like I was like in the unlucky grade. But finally I had this friend and I felt so lucky. I remember one time he stole his father's car, I stole my father's car, and we went racing in Prospect Park. This was before they had cops on the street or whatever. For some reason back in the 80s, they didn't really have cops around. So we went racing around and we had so much fun and we did all these crazy things. And one day he got his house for Shabbos, available for Shabbos. His parents were away. My mother never really let me go anywhere for Shabbos. She didn't let me go to camp. She didn't let me go anywhere. She was very overprotective of me. She wanted me to always be home. She said, your friends are your family. Your family are your friends and your friends are your family. And so I always stayed home, but this Shabbos I convinced her to allow me to go to this friend's house. So I went to his house and we bought beer and we did all these things that totally not okay to do. And I said, you know what? I'm speaking to this girl. In our community, it's not okay to speak to girls. When you're a teenager, especially if you're a boy, you don't speak to girls unless you're gonna get married. And at that age, we're not getting married. We're too young to get married. And I told him I'm speaking to this girl. He said, why don't you bring her over to our house? I was like, ooh, that's crossing a line. Bringing the girl over to your house for Shabbos. He's like, just bring her, have her visit. We'll play a board game or something. And so I said, you know what? I'll invite her to come. And she said she's gonna come. She's gonna come over. Finally, she came over to the house and I was so happy that I can share this secret with my best friend, and I told him about it. And then at some point on Shabbos, he decided to take the girl, bring her into his room, and lock the door. And I was completely shocked and devastated. And I was like, what the heck just happened? And I felt like my friend betrayed me, right? I felt like this is my best friend. This is my best friend, and this is what he's doing to me. So I decided I'm never going to talk to him again, and I'm never going to have a real relationship again. Because if he can do that to me, obviously he's not a real relationship. Obviously he doesn't really care about me. He's just using me. And so I went on living like this. So I went to my mother and I spoke to her about this, and she said, your family is your real friends. Get married, find somebody, have kids, and your kids will be your best friend. So that's what I did. I decided I'm going to go find a nice Jewish maidel. I found her. She's going to be loyal, and we're going to have kids together, and my kids will be my best friends. My kids will be my relationships. My kids will be my purpose. And so we got married, and all her friends were having kids, and for whatever reason, we couldn't have kids in the first year. And it was very difficult. And some people hear this like the first year. People wait 10 years to have kids. But in our community, people have kids right away. All their friends were having kids right away. And the reason we got married, for me, deep down, is I just want to have kids. I want to build that relationship. I want to look into their eyes. I want them to be my blood, right? And so we couldn't have kids. So we went to all these doctors and did all these tests and everything. And finally she got pregnant. And I was so happy to walk into my mother's house, and I saw her eyes glowing, and I told her, and she hugged me and kissed me. My father was so proud. And we made such a big celebration. Mazel tov, mazel tov. Finally, it's going to happen. You're going to have a baby. And I was so proud. I remember walking around so proud, and every single week I would take my wife to the doctor. None of my friends had jobs. I was an entrepreneur. I was hustling. I had like a bunch of different things that was going on at the same time. So I said, I make my own hours. I had a few employees and like some office that I had that I subletted the whole office so I could afford to pay for the office. And I had part-time interns working for me doing some websites or whatever that I was never finishing because I was trying to do it. But you know what? I was an entrepreneur and I had plenty of time on my hands. So I would take her to the doctor every single week to check it out. Everything was good. Everything was good. Everything was good. Everything was good. All of a sudden, the 9th month, she's supposed to have this anatomy scan, this really long test. I said, listen, it's going to be 2 hours. I got to go back to the office. I've never, ever left you alone, but this time I think you'll be fine. I decide to drop her off at NYU on 34th Street, and I drive back to Brooklyn to the office in Crown Heights. I park the car, go upstairs. I'm sitting down doing some work. All of a sudden, I get a frantic call. My wife's crying. I said, what's the problem? Why are you crying? And I'm listening so I can fix the problem, right? That's what husbands do. They want to fix the problem. She's like, there's no heartbeat. And I was like, don't worry about it. Most people can't find the heartbeat. I will find the heartbeat. Let me come to the hospital. I'll just take care of it. Don't worry about it. Just relax. Just relax. Everything's fine. I get into the car, driving over the Manhattan Bridge, and I remember the thought that I have in my head. I'm going to fix this. We have to have kids. This is the reason that I'm here. If I can't have kids, it's just not, my life's not gonna work. It's just not gonna work. I need to do this. I have nobody else. I literally have nobody else. This has to work. Anyway, I find a parking. I'm really good at finding parking, by the way. I know how to find parkings everywhere on the street. I found legal parking, ran up. The nurses are like, I'm really sorry. I'm like, don't be sorry. I'm gonna find a way to fix this. I'm like, get me the doctor. They get me the doctor, and the doctor looks at me. He's like, you have a few days. I was like, I don't have a few days. Do you have that defibrillator machine? Could you pull it out? Let's get it going. We're gonna get the heart. We're gonna find the heart. He's like, that's not the way it works. You don't understand. I was like, listen, you don't understand. Let's go find a second opinion. I heard, you talk to the Igris, you get second opinions, everything works out. You go to the Rebbe, right? So we went to the Rebbe, we davened, and we said, we're gonna get a second opinion, and we're gonna find that heartbeat. It's somewhere there. It has to be there. So we got an appointment in Borough Park at a laboratory, and we went down to the laboratory, and I remember the Russian lady's face, and she was very mean. And my wife's like, why are they being mean to me? I was like, don't worry about her face. They're gonna find the heartbeat. It's gonna be fine, right? So we're all there hoping, trach gut wird sein gut, think good, and it'll be good. And we're so positive, and we're like, this is gonna happen. We believe 100% we're gonna find this heartbeat, and everything's gonna be okay. She's lying on the table. The lady's looking for it. And we're like, we're here to test to see if there's a heartbeat. She's like, yeah, I'll find it, no worries. I'm the whiz, I know how to find this. Anyway, she starts looking for it, she can't find it. She calls in one doctor, another technician. They all start freaking out. My wife's like, they couldn't find it in the hospital, maybe you can find it. The Russian lady yells at her, they couldn't find it and you knew that you didn't have a heartbeat and you made me do this? And my wife started crying with tears, and at that point she's like, the baby's dead. And at that point I felt like, I wasn't willing to accept it. I wasn't willing to accept it. And at that point, I felt like there had to be somebody that was really mean, to say it in a really mean way, to just shove it in my face and say, it's over. You're not going to have this relationship. There's no chance here. It's done. And I remember I felt like a dark cloud just came over me, and I was just devastated. I didn't know what to say. My wife was in tears. I couldn't help her. I ran away, ran to my office, and you know what I did? I told my employees to go home. I told them what happened. I was like, go home. There's no reason for me to be an entrepreneur. I don't need to make money at this point. I'm done. And for a few weeks after that, I felt very, very depressed. I felt very alone. There was nobody that I could really share it with because I didn't really have anyone. I couldn't talk to my parents about it. My father told me to go speak to the rabbi locally. So I said, you know what? I'll go speak to Rabbi Heller. I was in Kollel at that point also, part-time in Kollel. Half the time I wasn't working, half the time I wasn't learning. Anyway, so I went to Kollel. I said, Rabbi Heller, I'm going to speak to you. Why? Why did Hashem do this to me? Why? I need to find a reason. He's like, there are certain neshamas that are special. There are certain souls that come down to this world. You're not allowed to ask questions. You just have to accept it. There's a reason. And I was like, I don't want to be special. I just want to be a regular person. I just want to fit in. He's like, you're special. I was like, I'm not special. I'm just a regular person. And I remember how much my heart was hurting. And then my friend came over to me one day in 770. He's like, we really need you in our firm. And I was like, I don't work for people. He's like, listen, it's entrepreneurial. Come over, help us out. We need a guy like you. So I said, I'll ask my wife what she thinks. She's like, my wife's like, you better get out of the house. You're just hanging around here, moping the whole day. It's not going to work out. And I said, all right, I'm going to go. So I went down there and they made me feel so good. They're like, listen, you can have your side hustles if you want. We just need you to fly down to God knows where and just do this $100,000 implementation for some software that we have no idea. We don't have anyone that can do it. We sold the software. We need you to learn it and implement it. And I said, okay, I'll do it. I can do it. Anyway, after doing that, they hired me, and my life just started getting better after that because I was just not thinking about myself. I was just helping this company grow. And I remember, fast forward, when I just got married, I always wanted to buy a house, right? I never dreamed that I'd be able to buy a house. But by working at this company, I was able to get a mortgage and buy a house. And I had my first daughter, and I was so blessed. I remember taking literally 100,000 pictures of my daughter. I have it on Google Drive, 100,000 pictures. And I had my second daughter. And I was so proud and I was so happy and I was so motivated to work hard that I had 7 side hustles and I was just working 16. People were like, why do you work so hard? I said, for my kids. I'm working so hard for my kids. And so I just basically wanted to become financially independent. And finally I found a partner, started a business, got rid of my side hustles, and we grew the company to be one of the fastest growing companies in the US. I had so much fuel, so much motivation, so excited. And I remember one day I was sitting hustling and bustling and I wanted to help Rabbi Jacobson. And so Rabbi Jacobson, I said, come to my office, talk to me, my partner. He's a big rabbi. He has a online school for training people on Judaism. He's a dean of the yeshiva.net. And he came over and we started giving him advice on how to monetize his email list and how to be able to leverage the community that he has and generate more income. And he was so happy with all the help that we were able to give him. My partner said, we don't want you to leave without a blessing. My partner was the yeshiva guy. And he's like, Hashem should bless you. And he gets up to go. He's like, no. I want you to walk around this whole place and give us mamish a blessing, Shabbat blessing. He's like, I don't do that. I'm not like whatever. I'm just a guy. I'm just give you a blessing. I go. He's like, no. You're going to give us a blessing. So he's like, he puts on his hat. He puts it up like this. And he's like, you should be able to inspire tens of thousands of, he started slowing down. He's like, tens of thousands of people. And he's going on and on and on and on and on. And my partner's like, all right, enough. Thank you so much. And he walks out. And then all of a sudden I get an email from Google. And the email says, would you like to become a certified Google trainer? The way it works is you get a room. We fill the room for you with business owners, and the business owners pay you and you keep the money. And I was like, that sounds like amazing, right? I want to speak to business owners. Sure, let's do it. I went through the training. I became a certified Google trainer, and I got the museum in Crown Heights as the first place. We filled it up with 75 or something seats, totally sold out. It was amazing. And I'm about to get up to speak about something that I know a lot about. I know about search engine optimization. I was going to speak about Google. And all of a sudden, I'm about to walk in the door, and I turned to my partner. I was like, I can't do this. I can't do this. He said, why? I said, because my heart's about to explode out of my body. I never felt like this. I've never done a seminar before. I can't get up in front of all these people. My wife's on the crowd. Everybody's there. I just can't do it. He's like, all right, no problem. We'll just refund all the people. It's only $15,000. Just refund everyone and that's it. I was like, no, I'm doing it. I'm doing it. I remember walking in and just like pacing back and forth and pacing and I was saying the word basically. Every sentence was like, and basically, basically. But I got through it. I did an hour and a half. My partner did an hour and a half, and it worked out really, really well. And after that, I hired a coach. I read books, and I went to Rabbi Jacobs, and I was like, dude, what is this thing going on? My heart's about to leave my body when I'm in front of people. He's like, yeah, you're afraid of public speaking. 90% of people are afraid of public speaking. You just gotta work on the skill. So I said, you know what? I'm gonna work on my skill. And so about 2 times a week, I would look for places like meetup groups and places, networking events where I could speak at so I can become better. And before you know it, I started getting really, really good. And I started getting a lot of invitations to speak at places. And I've spoken to over 10,000 business owners on behalf of Google. And one day I remember I was in a crowd. I was asked to speak at a place, an auditorium. They had 500 people. And it was a place like this where the light was blinding me. And I prepared for that. It was going to be a 10-minute talk. And I was ready to let the crowd have it. I felt so good. I had so much experience. I knew all the tricks. I knew how to stop. I knew how to look at people. I knew how to engage. I read all the books. And all of a sudden I show up and I'm ready and I let the crowd have it. And all of a sudden, all I see in the distance is a bunch of people frowning. It's a bunch of people not laughing. It's a bunch of people not engaging with me and not connecting with me. And I was like, what is going on? I'm a very successful person. But yet in my head, I'm hearing to myself, you're an idiot. You can't do this. Nobody wants you. You're not worthy. I have kids at home. I have the house. I have the business. I have the things. And still, nobody in the crowd wants to give me any acknowledgement. 10 minutes pass. I crush through it. And I basically run out the door. I ran out the side door like an exit like that. And I go straight to Dwayne Reed. And I said, can I please have a pack of Marlboro Lights? I haven't smoked for 5 years before that. I took the cigarettes, I sat down on the curb, I opened it up, I took the matches, I tried to light it, it wouldn't light. I tried to light it, it wouldn't light. I got to the last match, finally it lit, so I said, you know what, I'm gonna chain smoke the whole thing. I started feeling so sorry for myself, I had to chain smoke the entire pack. I smoked 20 cigarettes. And I remember thinking to myself at that point, I was like, no matter how successful I'll be, I'll never really be successful because I'm not gonna get any acknowledgement from the outside. People won't see me. They see the truth. They see that I'm really false. I'm really an idiot. I'm not worthy. I'm just not worthy of love. I'm not worthy of acceptance. And then a week passed and I got the video and the email. And I watched the video, and in the video, I was completely shocked because everybody was clapping, and everybody was laughing, and everybody was motivated, and everybody was excited, and I didn't even have the word motivation back then. But people were into it, and they were loving it. But what I realized that in my head, I couldn't accept that. Because in my head, I was terrible still. In my head, I was never going to be good enough, even if I had 500 people loving on me in my face. Even if I trained 10,000 business owners, even if Google acknowledged me. And in that moment, all of a sudden, I had this realization. I had this realization that all the times in my life where I felt like I was betrayed, or the times in my life where my teacher said, you're an idiot, what he really said is, your turn is up, sit down. And I heard, you're an idiot. When my friend locked me out of his room, my friend just went into a room. I don't own him, I don't own her, I don't own any of that stuff, right? He just did his thing. He was my best friend. But I decided he betrayed me, that I'm not worthy. It was all about me. When Rabbi Heller told me that you're special, that you had the opportunity to bring a soul down to this world, I made it all about me. I said, no, I'm not special. I want validation. I want someone to love me. I was making it about me. How dare I make it about me? It's about everybody else. When I was in that crowd, if I only connected with the audience and made it about the audience instead of wondering how everybody felt about me because I was so empty inside, and instead realize that I am perfect, that I am special, that I do deserve love. And so I had to work on my relationship with myself. So after that happened, I went on a personal development journey. I completely had to revolutionize myself. I had to figure out, what are my beliefs? What are my values? What is my true purpose? Why am I here in this world? What is driving me? Why do I feel what I feel? What are feelings anyway? And I really had to inspect myself to figure out how can I optimize every part of my life? Because if you want to grow your business, you can only grow your business as much as you can grow yourself. And if I really want to make an impact, not just for myself, but for my children and for my children's children, for my friends, for my community, for the people around me, I had to become complete with me. And I was not complete with me. I was completely not complete with me. It's like they say entrepreneurs are consistently inconsistent. And so I had to become consistent with my thought process and accept myself. So when I see other people and I see that they're broken, and I inspect what is the relationship that you have with yourself first. You can't have a relationship with somebody else if you don't have a relationship with yourself. You cannot build a castle on quicksand and expect it to just last the test of time. No relationship will ever last if the relationship is all about external validation. The relationship has to be you filling up your own cup, and only you can love yourself. Nobody can love you as much as you can love yourself. Nobody can fill up your own cup. I remember one time I was holding a cup, and after the Sabbath on Saturday, we do something called Havdalah. We separate the holy from the non-holy of the week, and we do a blessing. And I remember thinking to myself, I had a friend who went to a personal development seminar, and what he told me is that you need to fill up your own cup, and nobody can take from your cup. Nobody can take from your cup. You know where people get the blessings from? People get the blessings from the bowl that's under the cup. You got to fill up your own cup so much that your cup will overflow. And from the overflow of love, from the relationship that's complete with yourself, where you accept yourself, and you don't have to be wondering what other people are thinking, because other people's opinions are none of your business. From that, you can create blessings for other people. If some people try to drink from your cup, I don't know, if my wife tries to drink from my cup, she's going to grow a mustache. That's what they say, right? There's a famous saying, if you drink. So don't. Instead, take from the bottom, and from that you can have blessings. And from that you can fill your pockets, you can fill your hearts, you can fill your minds, and you can fill your life. So I see a world where people realize that they need to build a relationship with themselves, and only they can do that for themselves. As children, we were spoon-fed, and we were breastfed, and we were loved, and we're hoping as adults that we'll continue to be spoon-fed and continue to be loved in that way. But the reality is we grew up. We went from children to teenagers and to adults. And looking back, if you can realize that the gift that you've been given of love, if you can now give yourself that gift, that's going to be the ultimate gift, the contribution that you can bring to every relationship. You have to first create a model for yourself. And if you can do that, if you can create that model for yourself, if you can have that real relationship with yourself, a relationship of integrity, a relationship where you don't constantly question yourself, ask yourself, am I worthy? Or ask yourself, do I deserve love? But instead you realize that you already are perfect the way that you are. Accept yourself. If you want to change something, change your beliefs. If you want to change your body, change your habits. If you want to get a different result, there's a way to get a different result. Just follow somebody that has that result that you want, and you can get that result. But by believing that you're just unlucky, or by believing that you're just not good enough, or by believing that you're getting punished or whatever, that's not going to help you be able to build real relationships with other people. So I see a world where people have real relationships with themselves first, so they don't worry about how many followers they have on Instagram. They don't worry about how many friends they have on Facebook, or how many connections they have on LinkedIn, or how many people show up when they do a mic drop. Instead, they realize that they themselves are complete. They realize that they themselves have a real relationship with themselves. And that way they can connect with each individual person, one at a time, every single connection. And if you can do that, if you can truly build that relationship with other people, if you can connect deeply with people in your life, it's only because you're connecting deeply with you. And if you do that, well, let me tell you, you will get motivated! And thank you very much.